So inspiring. Don't stand up when plane landed. I participated in an applause after a super rough landing. The approach, we were basically 90 degrees with the tarmac because of some crazy crosswind or something until the wheels grabbed and spun us around. Looking out the windows and basically drifting into the ground sideways was fucking terrifying. On a flight from Amsterdam to Boston, I saw a woman, who was clearly not from Boston, stand up, grab her bag, and stand in the aisle the moment they announced we were beginning our approach to Logan. The rest of us are buckled in, phones off, gear stowed. She was severely chastised by the crew. I had something like that happen. Some lady stood up right when we landed. We were stopped but not at our gate, and they literally just made an announcement that everybody needed to stay seated before we could move. Took 2 times of people telling her to sit down before she sat and we could move. Also, this is only related in that it's about a dick on an airplane, but I sat right behind a dude who got up to get something from the overhead 5 times throughout the flight. Each time he did not close the overhead bin, just fucking left it open. The flight attendant had to close it every damn time. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or not, but he seemed like a huge dick. Same thing happened to me on a flight from Denver to Phoenix. While we were still 30 minutes from landing, some ass gets up, grabs his and his wife's luggage from the overhead bin, then scoots his rude ass past other passengers in his row with their suitcases banging into everything. Why the crew didn't do anything is beyond me. Man, that reminded me of something I witnessed on a train one time. There was a foreign family, clearly not familiar with the area we were in. They were talking with another guy on the train about how they are visiting family or something. Most of the stops up to this point are only about a mile or 2 apart, so we are stopping pretty frequently. Anyway, we leave one stop and there's the announcement for the next stop, which was their stop. So the husband instructs his family to start gathering their things, say goodbye to the group they were talking to, and walk to the door to wait for their stop. Except this stop was not only a mile away, it was several miles and probably about 10 minutes away. After a few minutes you could tell that the husband was starting to feel awkward. He actually had the door propped open and was standing halfway out the train car. The conductor came in and asked him what the hell he was doing, told him to get away from the door until his stop. I just witnessed some guy get up and go to the washroom right when the plane was speeding up on the runway to start elevating. Never heard the flight attendant so loud on the speaker telling someone to sit down, lol. Fuck people. Sometimes nature calls and you only have one pair of pants. I've been that guy before. The flight attendant seated next to the bathroom started yelling at me but was too slow. I made it to the bathroom before she could really do anything, and I assume because of the noises coming out of the bathroom, food poisoning, she didn't say anything as I left the bathroom afterwards. Sometimes your body makes the choices, not your brain. Had a woman strap her backpack to her front, and start storming ahead from one of the very back rows once the doors opened, all the while screaming lavatory over and over again. I was pretty close to the front, she ran right by me and got off first. Never figured out if she was actually crazy, had to go really bad, or just that desperate to get off the plane first. I'll admit I have done this, but just after we lifted into the air. The choice was between getting yelled at or sitting in my own shit for 3 hours. I chose the yellin'. This isn't exactly uncommon. People drink a lot in airports, which means both lowered inhibitions about doing something you shouldn't combined with an urgent need to pee. A few beers beforehand and a plane that taxis a bit too long is a recipe for disaster. I've been on a 3-hour flight where the pilot said there was turbulence and then the attendants won't let us use the restrooms the whole freaking flight. I tried to hold it in but I said screw it after a while. The attendants scowled at me, but WTH are we supposed to do? The thing was there wasn't even any turbulence. Was literally rounding the corner to take off and this chick gets up and walks up to the front of the plane, gets in the fetal position and is apparently having a panic attack. I can't even remember what the flight attendant yelled on the intercom that got the pilots to stop. but I do remember the guy next to me saying it's a good thing it's a white girl and not a brown man because he would have got fucked up. As we were taxiing onto the runaway, my wife was urgently needing the bathroom. She asked the flight attendant if she can use the bathroom, to which Fa said the answer is no, but I cannot stop you from using it, wink, so my wife took it as a yes and went. I was on a flight where someone went to the bathroom right before we turned onto the runway to take off. We had to sit on the runway and wait for the guy to shit before we could take off. This means that the line of planes behind us also had to wait. This one man was taking a shit and costing multiple airlines tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of people to be delayed in their travels. I have only asked people to crack the window open because I need some fresh air up there in the sky. I was on a flight a couple months ago with some pretty bad turbulence on descent. There were also some new parents and their infant in the row behind us, along with grandma in the row next to them. Baby started wailing because of the bumps. Parents can't quiet it down. So what does grandma do? Gets out of her seat, takes the baby and starts walking it up and down the aisle trying to calm it down. Same thing with the flight attendants there too, and I don't blame them because that baby was about to become a projectile. LMAO, last month I was on a plane with my brother and he stood up literally at the moment the plane touched ground after landing. Like, dude, we are going 150 plus mph and rapidly decelerating, WTF are you doing? He doesn't fly super often, but he's an adult and it was not his first or even fifth flight. I don't know what he was thinking. As someone who is a super anxious flyer and gets extreme nervous that part of the flight is close to the worst. I usually have to get up and pee so bad, despite having used the restroom like 20 minutes prior. The next worst part of any flight is the entire rest of it. The only time I traveled by plane, a dude got up when the flight attendant was explaining all the security stuff at the beginning. She told him to please sit down and he just ignored her and kept searching on his bag until he got a pair of headphones and then sat down again. It was very distracting. On a flight in the US, we were arriving late, so the flight attendant asked everyone who didn't have a connection to stay in their seats so those trying to make one could get off the plane first. The attendant knew there were lots of passengers without connections, including me. Well, it didn't take long for everyone to start moving to the exits, everyone but me. As the last of the other passengers were getting off, the flight attendant came back on the PA and said, in an irritated tone of voice, something like this: "I'd like to thank the one passenger who was kind enough to let everyone with connections go first. And we have a gift for him." As I left, the attendant handed me a stack of huge chocolate chip cookies, like 6 of them from the first class galley. It wasn't a trophy, but they sure tasted good. Yeah, no, if I had to pick a thing about flying to get people to stop doing, it's not this. Standing up in no way hurts me as long as you still wait your turn to leave. What I cannot stand is how people crowd up against the luggage carousel so you can't see around them. If we all just stood back, everyone could see. You could step up when you see your bag rather than sending against the goddamn thing the whole time. It drives me nuts. Yes, and they have their whole family crowding around too. Like 5-year-old Billy is going to help grab those 50-pound suitcases off the carousel. Oh my god, this drives me insane too. Fucking stand back and chill. There's no need to stick your head on top of the conveyor and block the view for everyone else. And when one person decides they need to stand right up against the carousel, the next person realizes they can't see the luggage unless they stand close to, and so on and so on. In a lot of airports there's even a line on the floor which you're supposedly not supposed to cross until you see your luggage. Nope. Fucking people, man. LOL, I flew for the first time in a couple years last month and actually checked a bag, I think for the first time ever. I was one of the first ones to get to the carousel and I stood a couple feet away from it so I could look for my bag, and if anyone needed to they could step in front of me to grab their bags as they came. Nope, people just took that space for themselves so they could just stand there and stare at the carousel as bags went by, and no way for others to get their bags if needed. It's like I was invisible to them, LOL. I stand up, I'm short and don't hit the ceiling, even in the window seat. It's so nice to stand up after 4 to 6 hours of sitting squished. My knees are usually burning, lol. I still file out in the appropriate order. I don't see the problem. People who put their carry-on over someone else's seat, forcing them to do the same, forcing a third to do the same until everyone is scrambling for overhead storage are actually the worst. Fuck people who travel with like 4 carry-ons and take up other people's spots. I don't stand up because I usually take a window seat and I'm too tall to stand under the overhead compartments, but I legitimately can't understand the hatred for people who stand right away. You've been sitting for hours in an incredibly cramped space. Who doesn't want to stretch their legs after that? If I was short enough, like my wife, to stand up under the overhead compartments, I absolutely would the second we pulled into the gate. This doesn't bother or affect me at all. Yeah, I fly every week, literally on an Uber home from the airport right now, and whoever is annoyed by this needs a good awakening. Be mad at the airlines that are so big they don't care about customer service, which is all of them. Be mad that chocolate costs $6. Be mad that there's a 400-pound giant in the middle seat next to you. But this? Yeah dude, you're not going to have fun flying at any point if this bothers you. Standing when the plane lands is the type of thing that people who don't fly often think us frequent flyers complain about. Really, it doesn't matter, like you said. I fly all the time and I stand when we land because I want to stretch and gather my stuff. Nobody stands because they think they'll get off the plane faster. What pisses me off way more is people who stay sitting and then stand at the last second and only then start to collect their shit, slowing down the whole line. I'm not alone. Once I realized this is my all-time pet peeve, it has ruined flying for me. I dread going to the baggage carousel because of my boiling anger at everyone there. Things like this drive me insane, but like so many other things that can be filed into the category of can you imagine how much easier and more efficient everything would be if everyone just did what they were supposed to do. I'll add on people in Zone 3 crowding up by the boarding gate when they are still on first class. I'm 6 feet 6 inches, so I sit in the aisle, and when that plane parks I'm standing up to stretch. I will patiently wait my turn to deplane, but sitting in an airplane seat is a form of torture. OMG, my last flight was 10 hours long. We took an additional 40 minutes extra to go around weather, which you would have never guessed based on the turbulence we went through. Then after landing we were told we needed to be towed and had to wait for the tow vehicle thing. An hour later, we are still sitting on the runway as they tell us it broke and they have to get one from another runway. So nearly an hour and a half later, 12 plus hours in a tiny seat, they opened the door and we all jumped up within seconds, and I didn't blame everyone. We were so done. Yeah, not sure why people hate that people stand up when the plane has landed. Like, yeah, I realize that standing up isn't going to get me off the plane faster, but I need to stretch my legs after sitting in that shitty seat for hours. I'm not hurting anyone by standing up. I was on a 16-hour flight from San Francisco Airport to New Delhi that ended up being closer to 17 hours due to a headwind or tailwind. This was with 2 super irritable infants. I don't think I judged anyone that rushed to get the fuck off that plane either. If you are at the gate and the seat belt sign is off, there's no reason or rule that says you can't stand up. I just landed a minute ago and we're currently all stuck on a plane that's hot as balls waiting for our gate to open up. It's a 20-minute flight and we've been sitting in probably 90-degree plus, if not 100, not exaggerating, for like an hour and a half. I couldn't even imagine 10 hours. But anyway, send help. There are 5 unwritten rules of flying main cabin. Don't crowd the gate if you're in late boarding zones. Middle seat gets both armrests. Recline your chair slowly. Use headphones. If you're in the aisle seat, have your bags ready for deplaning. If you're in the middle seat or window seat, sit the fuck down. Don't forget to put on your backpack and turn around, swing it at the faces of people still sitting in their aisle seat. I travel a lot for work. Reading this triggered me. It's the same GD people that leave giant hairspray / water bottles and iPads in their carry-on luggage, despite TSA standing there reminding everyone 56 times to take that stuff out. Neanderthals. We should really be helping each other get our stuff from the overheads. If everyone had their bags in hand, the 20 minutes evac would take 8 minutes. Everyone stands up and goes, "Hey, is this your bag?" This might be unpopular, but I think you should be let off the plane first if you don't have anything in the overhead bins. I always check my luggage, and I hate waiting for all the assholes in front of me taking their sweet time retrieving their shit from the overhead bins. I'm 6 feet 2 inches and planes are awful, but on long flights I stand up and stretch for a minute every hour or two. There's enough room in the aisle to get the worst of the kinks out. Popping to my feet the moment the jetway opens just means I have to stand there motionless for 5 minutes, with my head kinked sideways so it doesn't hit the overhead compartments. That's no better than a cramped seat. I always thought everybody understood that most people get up as soon as the plane lands because they're tired of sitting and just want to stretch, not because they think they'll get off the plane any faster. Seriously, man. I'm 6 feet 4 inches and broke my tailbone years ago. Even hunched up top feels so much better than sitting down any longer. Came here to say this. I am 6 feet 4 inches. I am not trying to stand up and rush to the front of the plane. I am standing up, my blood can return to my legs. I'm 6 feet 2 inches and broad-shouldered. I stand up for myself and the person next to me. The ones that aggravate me are the people that stand up then start pulling rollerboards and backpacks down, whacking people's heads and taking up additional aisle space 5 minutes before we start moving. Those are the inconsiderate / impatient people, not the ones who stand up for reprieve. I've been really confused why people find this to be so angering. Is it that people are standing up as soon as the wheels hit the ground? Or is it that people get mad when people stand up after the fasten seatbelt sign is off? Because I definitely do that, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I just want to stretch my legs. I'm not crawling over anyone's lap, or doing yoga. I am just trying to be comfortable. I'm 6. I am not standing up just to crouch under the overheads. Can't count how many people I see doing that. Also, I travel regularly and only have a personal item on my shoulder with no carry-on, ready to go straight to the jetway as soon as the aisle clears. But okay, you got to try to cut in front of me so I can wait for a full minute while you try to dislodge the luggage you crammed in the overhead that clearly exceeds the size limits. First of all, nobody stands. Most people don't stand when the plane lands, they stand as soon as the plane pulls up to the exit ramp, and the fasten seatbelt sign is turned off. That aside, I find it way more annoying when some jerk waits until it's his turn to deplane before standing and searching for his bag. Get your shit together, and be ready to walk, motherfucker. Yep. I always stand so I can check the seat early to make sure nothing has fallen out of my pockets so that I don't have to start shuffling items when it's my turn to move. I agree 100%. Aisle people, stand up and get your shit together, that way when the row in front of you is gone you can start moving. I feel the same way about people that board and stop to get their headphones, pillows and all the other shit. Either have it out and ready when you enter or get that shit after you are airborne. I've seen people start to stand up as the plane hits the runway, and then grab seat backs to keep from face planting as the plane slows down. Idiots. I'm not small, but I'll sit and wait for the idiots to rush out and take my time exiting. Yeah. I'm cramped, but I learned to relax and just go semi-liquid and flow into spaces. I also usually stuff my backpack under my feet. This. If you're not standing with your bag in hand, it's not your turn. You forfeit it by staying seated even as people start exiting the plane, and you better stay seated until people who actually prepared are past your row. Last time I flew, after we landed there was a lady who no shit just repeatedly asked me if she could squeeze by everyone standing in the aisle to get to her bag at the front of the plane, despite sitting in the back. Doors weren't even open yet. I told her, "You're just gonna have to wait, I didn't tell her nobody gives a shit about you or your own shit, that's what you get for getting greedy with the overhead bins. Would it have been so terrible for your shit to get checked at the gate? It's not like they would have thrown it out in the Hudson. Bitch. Alternate title, the guy in this picture didn't have a connecting flight leaving in 5 minutes. If someone standing up after a plane gets to the gate and the fasten seatbelt lights turns off gets you angry, you need to reevaluate your life. That doesn't upset me. What upsets me are the folks in rows behind me who try to exit first. Short connection or not, you are not going to get far when there are 20 rows ahead of you. All you're doing is making the already tight space more congested. Thanks for watching. If you could like, subscribe and comment best Reddit stories for more Reddit videos.